By the way, for the market, it is very quiet, so there's no real update except that the Bank Nifty is outperforming this morning. It's putting up a good show, up almost about 200 points. RBL Bank and Punjab National Bank are front and center in terms of the big gainers this morning. Both of them in the broader markets, that is. RBL, Punjab National, Canara Bank are all moving with some strength. And from the frontliners, it's SBI and HDFC Bank that are doing well. So that is the leader of the market up until now. Let's talk about PVR now. PVR posted numbers that were better than what the street was estimating. Revenue growth was up over 50% compared to last year. Margins also expanded. But of course, last year is not comparable. It was a complete washout for them. Average ticket prices have risen about 16%. The company has also added 20 screens in the quarter gone by, but occupancy has slipped to 29% versus 33%. Nitin Sood, the CFO of PVR, joins us now to talk about that. Nitin, good morning and thanks for joining in. Of course, that's the overarching theme, right? Whether consumer preferences have changed, people prefer to sit at home and consume on the OTT platforms rather than theatres. But I'll come to that in a bit. Before that, just with some brass tacks questions, can you tell us in terms of the merger, how is it progressing? What kind of timelines are we looking at? And what are the immediate synergies that you see once the merger process is complete?
Sure. Good morning, Sonia. So we got the verbal order from the NCLT Mumbai bench on 12th of January. We are waiting for a certified true copy of the order, which is expected anytime in the next couple of weeks. And after that, typically the process of completion of the merger would take about 30 to 40 days, which would involve filing the order copy with the ROC, setting a record date for issue of PVR shares to INOX shareholders. And that whole process we expect to complete in the next 45 days from the date of receipt of the order. So well on track based on the guidance that we had given. This should get completed before we close this fiscal year.
And what about the kind of merger synergies that you see immediately in the first year itself?
Yeah, I think we'll have to do detailed operating work. There is going to be a huge amount of complementarity and, the network effect, given the size and scale of both the organizations. We've started work on that, and I think we see a lot of potential synergies, but I think we'll be able to give a better guidance, hopefully in the next quarter after we've done some more detailed work on that.
Yeah, right. Hi, Nitin. Good morning. The occupancy levels are still a little lower than pre-COVID. The hope is that Pathan comes in and, ramps things up as well. What's your sense in terms of occupancy levels? Can we visit those pre-COVID levels, say in this quarter or the next one, given the kind of content we have lined up?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of talk this year about, occupancies being low. And I think a lot of it is attributable to underperformance of Hindi film industry, which has done not as great as what it was doing in 2019. But if you look at the macro picture, we did about 22 million footfalls this year, which is a very large number. So I think some of those talks are a bit overblown. And, in our business, some years could get tricky when one of the industry is not done well. In fact, on the positive side, what we've seen is that, in the South India, the films have actually overperformed and the occupancies have moved up. The contribution of some of these regional films in non-traditional markets like North and West has been, outstanding, which means, new sense of admissions. And I think it's a matter of time, looking at the lineup of 2023, that industry is also going to bounce back. I would say we are seeing almost about 85% recovery. If you look at this quarter's admissions and compare it to where we were, pre-pandemic, we're down by about 16%. And I'm sure, some of this recovery will play out in the next financial year as we get a good slate of films from both Hollywood and Bollywood.
All right. No, absolutely. And let's hope that is the case. Nitin, I have two questions. But the first is, good morning, Prashant here. So Kotak recently put out a note and they made the argument, this is their view, that the Bollywood box office weakness is partly structural in nature. They gave various reasons. I don't know if you saw that note. It's interesting. They pointed to poor content quality, fading fan following of top actors. There's this boycott trend. and amplified impact of adverse reviews, which then leads to lower footfalls from day one, as soon as the movie is released. So if we were to take this as is, how does it affect PVR? You think you'll be just fine with South Indian movies and others, with Bollywood not really pulling its weight for some time to come, if that were to be the case?
Sure. So, first of all, let me respond on our circuit. We've got a very well diversified circuit spread all over the country. South India represents almost 1/3 of our cinema circuit. And post-combination, it will be even more diversified. The combined cinema network will be 1650 screens spread over 110 cities. So I think the focus is that we want to diversify so that we can, play multilingual content across the country. I think the narrative is slightly overblown. I somehow don't agree with the analyst's view. But if you look at, because we look at the data, and when we look at the data, we are not seeing this trend at all, in a lot of markets, and some of the markets like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada has, hit the ball out of the park. The industry has never done so well, given the box office collections. Even films in Marathi and Gujarati and Punjabi film industry have held. So we are not seeing any of that,
Nitin,
playing out.
This is only on the Bollywood, which is the biggest industry. This view is only not for the regional movie industries.
Yes. So, because we are not seeing this happening in any of the other part of the market, we don't see there is any impact on consumption, and consumer behavior at all. So we believe most of this is really content related, and, people who want to go out to watch good quality content. And once good quality content bounces back, things will be back to normal. Hollywood this year. Yeah,
Nitin, I take your point. I mean, things change on a dime, right? Last year, things were so different, and this year, consumption patterns have changed. But can you help us with some numbers? Your average ticket prices have gone up quite a bit. It's almost a 16% growth. And now you're sitting on an average ticket price of around 245 rupees. Is there scope to increase it further in the rest of the fiscal?
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to clarify, when people compare the ticket price, you're comparing it to 3 years ago. Now, if you look at our average ticket price growth over a 3-year period, it's been less than 6%, 5.5%, which is true for any single consumer retail business in this country. So, we've put out a 3-year ago benchmark because the industry has been shut for 2.5 years. But if you just look at the inflation in the economy, the growth in minimum wages, the growth in rentals, we are just catching up for inflation. So, we believe the ticket pricing is quite fair and reasonable. And we've said this always over the last decade or so. The ticket pricing will continue to grow with inflation. We don't see that to be any real concern. On average, our average ticket price is 240 rupees. And it varies depending upon time of the day, location, where you're going. And we price ourselves, according to what consumers are willing to pay.
Okay, all right, Nitin. Nitin, a couple of factors on the revenue front itself. Advertising income, it's still 35% away from pre-COVID levels. How do you see this shaping up? Do you think that you'll narrow the gap out there with pre-COVID levels? And also the other one is the other operating income, which includes distribution of movies. Now that's growing at a fast clip, contributing close to 10% of your revenues. What kind of margins you make out here? Because it's contributing on the top line, but not to show on the margin front. So in both these two aspects, if you could help us.
Sure. No, so advertising income is direct corollary to how the films perform at the box office. Unfortunately, the media narrative this year has been more negative than what's actually playing out on the ground. I think we need a series of films to do consistently well. And we are reasonably confident advertising will bounce back. And next year, should be a big revival in the advertising revenue for the cinema business, also leveraging the synergy from the combined entity operations. On the distribution business, we do a mix of Hollywood as well as Hindi film distribution. This quarter has been quite big for PVR Pictures, where we distributed films like Vikram Veda and Drishyam, which was quite big for us. we make on an average about 7.5 to 8% gross margins on the films that we distributed. We create a pipe. We don't take a risk on the content or quality or performance. We work on an advanced commission model. But we've created an infrastructure in a pipe which helps us to distribute films across the country, reach out to the farthest corners in every single cinema in this country for a distribution.
I mean, movies are such a emotive subject, right? We can they bring out such passion, well-argued reasons on both sides. But I mean, I don't think there's anyone who doesn't love movies, and watching it in a great ambience, absolutely. Nitin, you've never put really numbers, and I think my colleague asked you that question. The synergy benefits. Is there any way for you to quantify what could it be with this merger? What's the upside on at an operating level? If you can give us some indication.
See, I wouldn't want to quote a specific number because we're still doing detailed work. But I think broadly we see big synergies in all the revenue lines, especially F&B and advertising, which are two elements we combine. We see great potential to grow those two lines in a significant manner. There would be programming synergies. Some of our circuits are overlapping. How we program films, how we showcase them will play out and help. And on the cost front, the combination would help us in getting the supply chain benefits on a lot of our cost items. We are building out a very large circuit between PVR and INOX this year. We will be adding approximately 180 to 190 screens. We've given a guidance of 110 screens. INOX is opening about 75 to 80. So that's a large capex as well. So all of these, items will deliver a supply chain benefits given the volume of stuff that we'll be buying, and as we go to more and more cities in this country.
Okay, just two numbers if you can share with us. One on occupancies, right? I mean, you did mention that occupancies were on the lower side because of the weakness that Hindi movies saw at the box office. So what are you expecting in terms of normalized occupancies over the next, say, 3 to 6 months? And what is the content that one can look forward to in terms of, for the rest of the calendar year?
Yeah, I think, Bollywood, a lot of the content that is releasing right now was conceptualized and created pre-pandemic. I think in next 3 to 6 months, we will potentially get over with that. And a lot of the films that will release in the next fiscal would be new films which would have been created in the last 12 months. So we think that content refreshing will play a big role. Secondly, Hollywood, had almost 40% less releases this year. Because no content was created during the pandemic. That is going to sharply bounce back next year, and Hollywood has a big year ahead next year with franchises like Fast and Furious, Mission Impossible, 3 films from the DC universe, 3 films from the Marvel universe. Hindi films are quite strong next calendar year. We're starting with Pathaan, of course, on 25th January, but Shah Rukh has 3 films, in the next financial year after a long time. So that's going to be big. We have 2 films from Ranbir Kapoor, 2 from Ranveer Singh, 2 Salman Khan films. So content pipeline definitely looks very strong for 2023 ahead.
Okay, you got us all excited here in the studio. We have so much to look forward to. Kick-starting with Pathaan, right, that releases later this month. So all eyes will be on that. All the best, Nitin. Thanks a lot for joining in.
Thank you.
All right, that's the word coming in from PVR, but we have a whole host of other guests